Guys Talking About podcast. Just two of us today. Ethan is not judge-free zone. His fourth. I think this is his fourth colonoscopy in 5 weeks. Grant, if I'm counting correctly, right? That is where we're at right now.
That sounds right. I haven't seen his bad internet connection in a while. But yeah, 4 and 5 sounds about right. I'd have to say he's not off to a good start for 2025 in attendance. We'll say that.
No, I think he's only been on the show like last week. I think was the only time he's been on in 2025. I'm trying to think. I think it might have been.
I think so. Or if it was one early on.
It's been 5 weeks. So, January's done, which is also crazy to think. January's done, and now we're in the first week of February. There's 4 weeks in January. We're judge-free zone here. We won't get fully into there's a camera fully in Ethan right now, so we won't get fully into that. But I guess sometimes the jokes just write themselves. What can I say, Grant?
Well, again, what makes me the strangest thing about Ethan is, yes, this is his fourth colonoscopy in 5 weeks, but again, he said he enjoys the prep more. Which, to each their own, but apparently he just likes to have laxatives in his system.
I guess he's like Lloyd from Dumb and Dumber. Yes. Or was that Harry? It was Lloyd, right? I think it was Lloyd.
Now I'm second guessing myself, but
yeah, I can't remember. And maybe whoever we're live on Facebook and YouTube, so if you are watching on Facebook or YouTube, hop in the chat and let us know which one on Dumb and Dumber took the laxative and blew up a broken toilet here. So,
I'm upset with myself. I'm not wearing the same red sweatshirt I was last week, because now that it's not going to be as easy for that one guy to see me and comment about how I'm going to cry when Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce get proposed to after the Super Bowl.
And we can't even see Grant today right now.
I guess
where is he? Where'd he go?
all you can just see is the Nike baseball cap.
That's right. So Grant, we got a Super Bowl preview, but before we get to that, we've got a couple of things to discuss. Obviously, the big trade that went down on Saturday night. We've got Cooper Kupp. Looks like the Rams are shopping him, and Myles Garrett has requested a trade. We're going to talk about it all before we preview the Super Bowl. So we'll start here with the Luka trade from Dallas to the Lakers. Now, Grant, you had to work Sunday, so you were probably already asleep for a couple of hours. You had to work on Saturday as well, so you were probably sleeping. But myself, I was sitting on my chair. I was watching the movie Saturday Night, which I don't know if you've seen, but it's a pretty good movie. It's on Netflix right now, and I will say that the guy that played Chevy Chase looks like Chevy Chase played Chevy Chase. Like, looked, sound exactly like him. Like, it's just, they look like they just kind of like went back in time and like brought him back to the future for this movie. And then all of a sudden I'm watching it, kind of falling asleep, and all of a sudden my phone buzzes and I look down and it's an ESPN alert, and it was breaking. Luka, I'll just say Luka. I can't remember how to say his last name.
You can't say it, or you don't know how to say it?
Yes. Mm-hmm. I can never remember, because every radio show you listen to, they all say it differently. I think it's Doncic. Well, you know what? The internet is free.
Just call him Luka. We're going to sound stupid.
Okay. But anyways, I look down and I see this, and I was like, Doncic. That's how you say it according to Wikipedia, and Wikipedia has never been wrong before.
It's never been wrong. It's never been wrong. And I've donated plenty of money to Wikipedia over the days, because that's what the website asked me to do.
Yeah. I know. I know you too well. You are way too cheap to do that.
Oh yeah, fuck those guys.
But anyways, my phone buzzes and I look and I'm like, what? Like I thought like Shams got hacked. I was like, there's no way they just traded Luka for Anthony Davis. And the full trade is the Lakers got Doncic, Maxi Keebler, and Markieff Morris for Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and the very prestigious 2029 Lakers first round pick. They didn't even get a current first round pick here. And then also the Jazz, who were the third team in this trade, they got Jalen Hood-Schifino and the 2025 Clippers second round pick and Mavs 2025 second round pick. So I'm guessing the Mavs must have had a Clippers second round pick at some point.
Dude,
but
these NBA trades, Dylan, when there becomes 3 teams or 4 teams involved, and
there's 2031 first round pick,
2031
in this case 29 first round pick,
29 second round unprotected pick, cash considerations, and a $50,000 payment for my mother's funeral. I'm like, how do they come up with this stuff? My head truly just spins when I hear NBA trades talk. I'm just go down. I'm like, oh, sure. I have no idea what's going on.
And I text the group and I'm like, and I think all I said was, what? And didn't make any sense to Ethan. We didn't hear Del Grant until we started sending memes to each other in the group on that. And it the more I looked at it, the more it was like it came out that, well, everybody thought it was fake when Shams said, this is real, because nobody believed it. And
yeah.
It was the Mavs. Now it's coming out that the Luka's weight was an issue. They said that he's up to 260 pounds. I didn't even realize it. Probably should pay more attention to the NBA, but he hasn't played since Christmas. This is the third time in the last 4 seasons that he's had issues with his calf, and it's the same calf. They also released a statement saying they wanted to become a more defensive team, which still doesn't make any sense. And they didn't want to sign him to a supermax because of that. And I think Big Cat had probably the best idea is you have Luka sign a supermax and then you put him on Ozempic.
It checks out.
It checks out. It does. And still like trying to wrap my head around, but then it also kind of made sense when you find out the GM of the Mavs was he was an executive at Nike for a long time, and his claim to fame is screwing up the Seth Curry deal, and the reason Seth Curry didn't sign with Steph Curry. I said Seth Curry, Grant, because that is what this GM called Steph when they were meeting, and why he didn't sign with Nike.
Oh, you're kidding. That's the reason he called him Seth?
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Oh, for the love of God. That's like comparing a Toyota to a Bugatti. You don't do that.
But it's still it's still like mind blowing in any way you spin this, like that this works out for the Mavs. I don't know, especially because with Luka, they at least had their true alpha. Kyrie, when he has been asked to be the alpha, he's proven that he's not able to do it. And same with Anthony Davis. He's better as a Robin, and both of them are. So it's going to be interesting to see that dynamic. It also has to be brought that Mark Cuban sold the majority of his shares last year after his scandal and all of that. And I think he's still a minority owner, but it sounds like they traded him because the new Mavericks owners, they want to build a new arena with like a big casino next to it. And they're trying to stockpile. I don't know. But the other part about this too, which is very interesting, is that because LeBron is I think this is how this works. I'm not positive, but Luka also is not eligible for the Supermax because that's going to go to LeBron. So the Mavs like screwed him out of probably close to $100 million.
Well, and also since the Lakers weren't the team who drafted him, also isn't that another reason why he can't qualify for the Supermax too?
That
Because
could
if you,
be.
I think it's if you stay with the team who drafted you, you can get that 5th year, and you can get more money also. Where if you were to go in free agency to go somewhere else, the best you could get would only be a 4-year deal.
Ah,
I,
interesting.
yeah, the way the NBA does their max and their super max and everything else, there's like a list of criteria. And I remember one being if you stay with the team who drafted you, you can get, I believe, more years and more money long term, Dylan.
Okay.
So to your point, Dallas really screwed him over.
They
And
did.
also just the fact that you're going from um, Texas taxes to California taxes and having to buy a condo in downtown LA to having a condo in downtown Dallas. I don't want any part of that, any part of Southern California.
No.
And now Luke is
And
also going further away from home. Where if he wants to go to, was it Slovenia, wherever he's from, he not only has to go across the ocean, he's got to go across the whole United States.
across the whole United States. That's right. And also for the Lakers too. They also I think this kind of straps them too because I think this is like a win-win because they have their star post LeBron. They're ready for
Mm-hmm.
whenever LeBron decides to step away, which I mean at this point who knows because he takes extremely good care of his body. That's another good thing for Luka is
Yeah.
maybe this will be what gets Luka to get into shape and take
Be his
care of
wake up
his
call.
body where, because I mean, you look at LeBron. LeBron's quoted as saying that he spends over $1 million on his body every year.
Mm-hmm.
And, some of that might be HGH. We don't know. But
Maybe he's just drinking the really good wine.
it could be. But
Did you see also, Dylan? Did you see the video of the Mavs GM and Jason Kidd at their media session talking?
no.
It had extreme Tennessee Titans draft room vibes when they traded AJ Brown and drafted Traylon Burks. The look
Ooh.
on Vrabel and Jason Kidd's face was like, "This is going to end this organization. We're going to lose our job because of this trade, because some incompetent moron is making decisions and he doesn't know what he's doing."
Well, and there's also rumors that the Mavs, this might be like a real life major league situation where they might be trying to tank so they can move the team to Vegas if they don't get their stadium. I've also heard that rumor too.
Interesting, because then they could stay in the West. Oh, so then they'll be forced to relocate. They'll be forced to move.
Yeah. Where they can have, because it sounds like these new owners that's what they really want is they want gambling legalized in the state of Texas. And they feel that if they, so I also heard Eddie House on the Herd today talk about how don't be shocked if LeBron, because this is his last year of his deal, which probably makes sense of what you said, Grant, about the Supermax of LeBron going to Dallas next year because he would have Kyrie, he would have Anthony Davis, and LeBron, I mean, he's a $1 billion athlete. He doesn't need the money. He can take a cheap deal. He's still going to get paid handsomely, but
it'll still be.
This was just floated out here, but
Wouldn't
so maybe
that
they're
be
just
something?
playing the long game, and they're just gonna like when LeBron signs down in Dallas and next year it'll be like, we knew what we were doing.
We knew what we were doing the whole time. We got rid of Luka. We sent him to go, barely survive in Los Angeles with the two other white boys who look like him, and Austin Reeves and Dalton Connect. They have no
Which
future. The
also,
Lakers.
depending on what the Lakers want to do, I've also heard Austin Reeves could be traded as well because there's only one ball, and
Yeah.
between Luka and LeBron, you're not going to be seeing the ball a whole lot, and that's
No,
really
you're not.
all Austin Reeves can do. I mean, he's a great shooter, but outside of that, there's not a whole lot he offers to a team because he's a liability on the defensive end. So I think, and the Lakers still need a big because they don't have one at
They
all.
don't have one.
But
Well, and it's interesting. Like I saw something the next day that LeBron James found out about this trade when he was at dinner after their game in New York on Saturday night. Really?
you found out.
Found out on Twitter. He's no. The fact that someone on ESPN or wherever on Twitter had the nerve to say LeBron didn't know about this, come on now. He knew exactly what was going on.
That's my favorite is all the LeBron groupies like your brother Nick Wright would be like, I have heard that LeBron didn't know at all. Who is Nick Wright represented by? LeBron's agency. Of course they're going to tell him to say that.
Oh, he's represented by is it Clutch?
Yeah. Well, why do you think he's such a LeBron ball washer? Is because he's paid to say nice things about him.
Well, now I know that. I didn't know that before.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that certainly checks out.
That it does. And we'll stay in LA here because it was announced yesterday on Twitter that Cooper Kupp was told that he will not be returning to the Rams and they will be shopping him. They will be working with him to find a good trade partner and that good destination. He said in his statement that he's not happy about it. He wanted to end his career a Ram. But I think this is the first of many dominoes that could be falling in LA, especially if Stafford decides not to come back. But I gotta think he will. And the more I thought about this trade or him Kupp being traded is that Cooper and Puka Nacua are very much that same person, the same receiver. And I think Kupp has missed a lot of games. He's missed 18 games since they won the Super Bowl in 21. And they went with a more durable, cheaper option.
Younger,
in
cheaper
Puka
option.
Nacua. And right now his contract, he's due $7.5 million in a roster bonus and then $12.5 million base salary in 25. And then he's due almost $20 million in 26. And possibly he could increase his value if whatever team that he is traded to, if he's willing to rework a deal.
Well, and you look at the Rams these last 2 years with the success they've had in finding young talent in the draft. Why the Rams are probably thinking, why can't we do it again at the wide receiver position? I mean, they drafted Puka Nacua in the 5th round. Was it pick 144, 145, Dylan? Something like that. And people weren't high on Nacua coming out of the draft because he ran slow at the combine. But there's that video of Les Snead and Sean McVay saying, hey, sure, he runs slow, but he plays fast. So this Rams brass, they know football, and I feel like they know how to evaluate talent. And also, to me, at the end of the day, when you have a quarterback in Matt Stafford, he's going to make wide receivers around him better.
Yeah.
The two
and if you watched him last year towards the end, he looks like he could still play another 5 years.
Oh, yeah. And
especially if they have a good offensive line, if he can stay upright, he definitely is able to play for another 5.
Because you look at the two best individual seasons from a wide receiver position in the NFL in terms of production. You know who was the quarterback for both of those seasons?
That would be Matt Stafford.
That would be Matt Stafford. And with Nacua and even Demarcus Robinson, you know, who they signed this year, kind of their third down player. He can step up. They have Jordan Winningham, the young wide receiver from Texas. Higbee as a tight end. And Sean McVay is your head coach. There's no reason why the Rams can't find young talent to replace Cooper Kupp with Nakua being your number one. And unfortunately, when you're in the NFL and you're a skilled player and you become the age of 30, people look at you as your time is right.
Yep. And let's just cut right to the chase here, Grant. What uniform is Cooper Kupp wearing next year?
Whew, that's a good question. You know, I think it'll be someone like I think a team who is going to try to find help for their young quarterback, and they could use a veteran in this room. I'm going to say the Indianapolis Colts.
The Indianapolis Colts. Interesting.
Yeah.
I got another one. I'm gonna go with the Buffalo Bills here.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's a good one.
Because you look at the Bills, they've lost to the Chiefs 4 of the last 5 years. And as good as Stephon Diggs was early on, he had that drop in his last game in Buffalo. And it still never felt like the Buffalo, they have that guy on third down that Josh can go to and trust that's going to be open. You're still getting that with Cooper Kupp. He's going to be able to help those young receivers in that young core and take pressure off those guys where they feel the need to get open. Kupp's going to find a way to get open. And especially on third down, that's going to be a guy that Josh Allen knows he can go to and can trust is going to make a play. Because outside of his legs, because that's been their best third down play is Josh Allen's legs these last 5 years. And when you face the Bengals, the Chiefs of the world, you need somebody else to rely on other than Josh Allen's legs, because at the end of the day, the NFL continues to be and will always be for the quarterback a 3rd and 8 drop back pass league. And who's going to go? Can you make a play with your back against the wall?
And that trade in a sense works out for the Rams in this aspect. They're not going to play the Bills again for another 4 seasons, unless they meet in the Super Bowl. You're getting him out of the NFC, and also you're still doing him right. He's a Super Bowl MVP for your organization, Triple Crown winner from a couple years ago. You're going to put him in a spot where he can continue to play meaningful football towards the end of his career, because Cooper Kupp has less football ahead of him than he does behind him. He doesn't have more football in front of him than he does behind him. He has less. So if the Rams can do it right, it'll only set him up for success.
Yeah.
And it'll also set them up for success too, because then people will be like, you know what, we want to play for a team like this.
Correct.
We want to go play for the Rams because they do their players right.
Yep. And another guy that could potentially be moved is defensive end for the Browns, Myles Garrett. It was announced yesterday. He posted a statement saying that he has asked the Browns for a trade. The GM, Andrew Berry, said he wouldn't trade him for 2 first-round picks. And it sounds like Garrett, he wants to compete on the highest stage. I think him sitting at home while other teams are playing, I think that's eating at him. He's a 6-time All-Pro. He's got a cap hit of 19 and 20 million over the next 2 years. I think if they do trade him, it's going to have to be to a team that has a lot of cap space. You know, you look at a team like Detroit, who you could pair on the other side with Aiden Hutchinson. The Commanders is also another sleeper. I mean, that defense couldn't stop a nosebleed last year, especially and with all the injuries. Myles Garrett is a very durable player. I don't know how many games he has missed, but
I don't think he's hardly missed any.
Other than the one time he swung the helmet at Mason Rudolph.
That's assault.
That's assault. No, it's just assault.
Assault. That's right.
Assault, all caps with a period. But still a tremendous player. Any team would be lucky to have him. I was actually, first time I've listened to 9 to Noon in quite a while, and I just tuned in as PA and I think Paul Charchian were talking about it. And he proposed this, that if you can get Sam Darnold to agree to the franchise tag and sign the $40 million tender, and you send the Browns 2 first-round picks, if you're a Vikings fan, do you do that?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, in a heartbeat.
And because, I mean, it works out for the Browns, which they might be off scot-free of the Deshaun Watson contract if they're able to prove that he retore his Achilles in a non-football related incident, which I don't know if you saw this, but he had a post on Instagram of him in like Florida not wearing a boot, and he retore it. And they say that might be when he retore it. And if they're able to prove that, the Browns are able to cut him without cause, and Deshaun Watson's career is over, and the Browns don't have to pay him all that guaranteed money that he is owed.
That would almost, you know what? If there's one NFL organization where that deserves to happen to, it would be the Cleveland Browns. They get off scot-free.
They did trade for the guy.
They did.
After he had 36 sexual assault lawsuits, and they offered him the largest guaranteed contract in the history. I mean, I would say this. I would say the Cleveland Browns fans deserve this. The Cleveland Browns front office, that's kind of the bed they made, and they got to lay in it, because they did trade away Baker Mayfield, who had a good rookie year and then was injured all the time because his O-line couldn't keep him healthy, and has gone on to really reestablish himself as a starting quarterback in the league. And the fans love Baker. Like,
yeah,
they didn't want to see him traded, but with the injuries and them, Odell Beckham Jr.'s dad posting clips of Odell being open and Baker not throwing the ball, it was just worked out great for Baker.
And also, just that 21 season where Baker, I think, led the league in interceptions, Dylan, and there was multiple games where the Browns lost in a close fashion because of mistakes that he made. I think Stefanski went upstairs and said, you know what, we need a slight upgrade. He's maybe not necessarily the guy. And then Browns brass thought, all right, well, let's get a guy who hasn't played football in all over a calendar year. And you know what?
Then was suspended another 11 games.
And suspended another 11 games. But you know what? We're going to bring him in, and he's going to be our guy going forward. But so I guess I meant to say, if Cleveland could get out of this Deshaun Watson injury scot-free because they proved he was hurt, not training, like you said, didn't have his boot on, he wasn't training properly, and if they somehow trade Myles Garrett, get 2 first-round picks, and if they were to get the right quarterback in there, that would be the ultimate 180, and that would be like, is Cleveland somehow turning a corner for a franchise?
They might be. The curse might be lifted.
Is the curse lifted? Is it like Washington got rid of Dan Snyder, and they're in an NFC Championship game?
Ooh,
everyone!
I'm glad you brought that up, Grant, about the Dan Snyder, because I don't know if did you read that article about how he is just pissed at their success?
Yes, I did.
And this is an all-time petty move of like right before they was going to sell the team, and he refused to give the wire transfer information over to Josh Harris. Oh, and said, I'm just going to keep if they go in there, they're trespassing. I don't have to. And it was like, oh, that's why this guy deserves to be traded. But
Yeah.
anyway, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
You get that one bad egg out of the organization in Deshaun Watson, like Dan Schneider. Maybe the room is just clear. It's not as toxic. And you know what? Good things can happen.
possibly. And I think, Grant, this one might interest you. We got a comment on our YouTube from Bradley Weirick. I hope I'm saying that correctly, Brad. But he says, imagine if the Chiefs somehow managed to keep all their talent and add Myles Garrett via trade.
That would be something. Um, I don't know if financially if they'd be able to do that. Um, but an upgrade or more depth along the defensive end or the defensive line is something that the Chiefs I would love to see.
There's no such thing as too much depth on the D line.
No, there is not. I just financially, I'm not sure if it would be possible. But you know what? Maybe the Chiefs win. They go 3 in a row. Travis does propose at midfield, goes off into the sunset. You save $17 million a year there with his salary gone. More than likely, Trey Smith is going to be gone this offseason because he can't re-sign everybody. And who knows? Maybe they bring it in. If that team would go 17 and
0. They would. And all right, Grant, gun to your head. If in fact Myles Garrett does get traded, where is he? Who's he getting traded to?
I have a different team that you mentioned from earlier, Dylan. We're going to stay in the AFC West. How about the Las Vegas Raiders?
The Las Vegas Raiders. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. You bring in Pete Carroll, defensive-minded head coach. He's going to want energy. He's going to want a pro's pro in there. And Pete's sitting back and he's looking at his division like this, Dylan. Patrick Mahomes, Bo Nix, Justin Herbert. I don't have a quarterback on my roster, so I can build this talent for the next 4 years. If I can get Myles Garrett and Max Crosby to be bookends together, we could win some games. So I think it's a desperate move. I think the Raiders need a star. They need a glue player, or they need a second glue player on their roster, someone who's a pro's pro, and I think that's who Myles is. So I'll go Las Vegas.
All right, This is a sleeper team too, but they have oodles and oodles of cap space, which their former GM got a bad rap for, and probably explains they weren't overly talented, but were still ranked in the top of defense, but with a new coach and a familiar coach. They have their quarterback for the future. I'm going to go the New England Patriots. They have $120 million in cap space right now. He worked with Vrabel last year as because Vrabel was a special assistant. And like we talked about last week is they have a good defense, the Patriots do, but they add an elite pass rusher, a 6-time All-Pro in Myles Garrett. I mean, that's going to you have your cornerstone piece, a guy that you can build your defense around because he still has 5, 6, 7 years left in him to be one of those elite pass rushers in the NFL. So I think you got to keep an eye on the Patriots or the Lions. You talked about Crosby and Garrett on the same defensive line, Hutchinson and Garrett on the same defensive line. And I mean, you could offer those 2 first-round picks because if you're Detroit, with the roster that they have, and they still have a good core of their guys that are pretty young and you don't have to pay them yet, they've got $46.5 million in cap space. So they would be.
You look at the Lions, Dylan, and when you took out Aiden Hutchinson, their team could not get to the quarterback this year. They struggled rushing the passer. There was a point, was it week 11 or 12? It was late in the year. I can't remember the exact week, but where Aiden Hutchinson was still the leading sacker for the Lions, and he hadn't played since week 6. Like, that is just brutal. And the crazy part about that is he had 4 in one game.
Uh-huh.
It was, 4 against the Tampa Bay.
Yeah, and at that point where the Lions are picking, You're not
Yeah.
gonna even probably with the number 1 overall pick, you're not getting a better player than Myles Garrett.
No, I mean maybe Jeremiah Smith in 2 years when he comes out, but that's not this year.
Yeah. But all right. Well, Grant, should we get into the reason you want let's preview Super Bowl as future Hall of Fame tight end Rob Gronkowski would say
LIX.
Super Bowl licks. Yep. Super Bowl 59. Holy cow.
59.
That's crazy to think. Super Bowl 59. Chiefs, Eagles. Chiefs come in as a 1.5 favorite. The total for the game is 48.5. I think it's fair to say that these two teams have been the best two teams all year, the most consistent, find ways to win. I think they're built very similarly where there's just that belief around this team, those teams where they just know how to win in critical situations. They're going to find a way to pull it out. They're going to find a way to win, make those winning plays that we always talk about. And we got ourselves a rematch from Super Bowl 57.
Dylan, is it these teams find a way to win or they don't lose games?
Both.
I think
Neither team beats themselves.
Exactly. Neither team beat themselves. Both of these teams, they make their opponents make those 2 or 3 to 4 mistakes throughout a game that will end up costing you. We kind of take the Patriots' success for granted. Or you know what? When the Patriots were having all this success, we were young and we weren't able to truly grasp it and understand how good this Patriots success was. But, the Patriots, they never did anything to lose games. So well. They were so fundamentally sound in situational football. They just excelled in it. And both of these teams on Sunday are that exact same way. They don't turn the ball over. The Eagles can run the ball whenever they want to, but when they need to get a first down and they're running it, situationally, Saquon's going to get that first down. And the Chiefs, they're the same way. And they're probably two of the best coached teams in the NFL. And that's one problem I see across the NFL in general today is there's a lot of bad coaching, I feel. We're recycling the same old coaches. This guy gets fired here, he gets a job to go here. And these two staffs are great. And these teams look where they were to start the year. With all the injuries the Chiefs overcame, revolving door at the tackle position, playing into the Super Bowl and the AFC title game these last couple of years, a shorter offseason. And then look at the Eagles. They're 2-2 after they get blown out by Tampa Bay in week 4. People want Sirianni's head. I'm on here saying they're going to fire him and hire Belichick or Vrabel. And all they do is they just keep working, and they've won, 13 of their last 14 games?
Something like that, yeah. And I mean, we dog a lot about Sirianni. We've given him the runaround here on this show, and all he's done is continuously win. And we can say he's a bad coach, bad this, but he does a tremendous job of the talking like the big time shows us. What does he do? What does he do? Well, he's the CEO. He's the chief figure out officer. If coaches aren't falling in line, if they aren't offering solutions, he's going around into meetings and figuring things out. It sounds like, by all accounts, the guys love playing for him, and he's done it. I mean, I can't argue and say this guy's a bad coach or a lot of it. I mean, he's basically shut me up, which is really, really hard to do. As Grant, it takes a lot to silence me, but when you make it to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years, you're obviously doing something right. And the Eagles, they also have a tremendous front office as well. And they go out and they draft and develop players.
I saw a stat today. I wish I would have taken a screenshot of it. It was the Eagles draft the last 3 years. Their first, second, and third round picks, first, second, third, fourth round picks. It's an absolute clinic on what this Eagles organization has done. Um,
The Eagles with a Georgia G for
yes,
the G of Eagles.
yes,
Yes.
but it's like what they've, like I said, minus the Justin Jefferson, Jalen Reagor disaster in 2020. But hey, that's okay. They ended up with Devontae Smith the next year and AJ Brown.
Which is
So
also wild that like Devontae Smith would be a number one receiver anywhere you go, and he's like their fifth option.
It's an embarrassment of riches. But it was in 2021 they got Devontae Smith in the first round. In 2022, Jordan Davis in the first round.
And
Nakobe
AJ
Dean,
Brown.
and they traded for AJ Brown. Nakobe Dean in the third round. 2023, you have Nolan Smith in the first round. Jalen Carter in the first round. Um, Landon Dickerson was another player they got in 2021. Cam Jurgens they got in 2022. Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean this year. It's incredible. Yes, it's incredible what this Eagles scouting department has done over these last couple of years in building this team. Like it's just a masterful job.
And I'm glad you brought up that Eagles offensive line because as good as Saquon is and as special of a player he is, there are at least 5 or 6 times in a game where you'll watch that Eagles offensive line and Saquon doesn't get touched for 7 yards.
Well, look at how good Miles Sanders was 2 years ago. Miles Sanders was what did he rush for? 1,500 yards.
Mm-hmm.
He got paid in Carolina because of how dominant and how good this Eagles offensive line is. Like I said, not taking anything away from Saquon. He is an absolute unicorn and probably the most physically talented running back in the NFL. Fair to say, but when you have that group in front of you and you're not getting touched on some plays, they're going to make you have a lot of success.
And the big thing here is you've seen teams in these playoffs where they tried to stack the box against Saquon, and it doesn't work because you can stack the box all you want, but when you have a player as fast and explosive as Saquon is, you need to have layers to your defense where when you stack the box, you're putting Saquon and a safety in a one-on-one situation, which Saquon is going to win 101 times out of 100. He's just too fast, and especially if that safety doesn't take a good angle, doesn't take the perfect angle, you're not tackling him. It's over.
You'd much rather just continue to let Saquon get 4 to 5 yards per carry, but you're keeping everything in front of you than trying to stack the box and playing a 6-man front, and before you know it, you lose contain, or he makes a guy miss, or a linebacker goes the wrong way, and guess what? He's off to the races.
And the other part about that too, which is really makes it really tough preparing against the Eagles offense, is they have 2 receivers on the outside that can beat you deep over the top in Smith and AJ Brown. So the chess match, I think this game, I think it's a wash. When the Eagles are on defense and Chiefs are on offense between Reed and Fangio, I think that is going to be. I think that's it's a pick 'em. Either one. I think the Eagles are going to win some battles. The Chiefs are going to win some battles. And on the defensive side, what you talked about, that those 4 to 5 yards, if the Chiefs are able to limit that, Kellen Moore has a tendency to get a little bit trigger happy if they aren't getting that explosive. Does he panic? And does he decide to, start throwing the ball around where they don't really need to? Because in this game too, Tom Brady talked about it as well, where it is such a long drawn out game and day where in the second half defenses just get burned out.
Well, look at last year's Super Bowl, Dylan. Chris Jones was just exhausted. He couldn't do anything. Like that overtime drive, he had to sit out the first 2 plays on San Francisco's goal-to-goal situation. where, Andy looked at him on that third down play where the Niners didn't block him, and they said, "Hey, Chris, we need you to go in there to make a play." But you like last year going up against McCaffrey, the Chiefs did a nice job of just not letting him get that big explosive play. Like what I talked about, he got his yards. He did his thing, but they never let him break
Under
free.
90.5 though, which I won.
Which you want. Yeah, I think his total yards was like 110 or something like that in the game, but they didn't give up that explosive play. And one thing I'm interested to really see on this game is with the combination of Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson on Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. Of course, how that goes, it might be, let's say, 50-50, but the Chiefs have struggled this year covering the middle of the field and covering tight ends. What kind of game does Dallas Goedert have? But Dallas Goedert's also not a real big explosive player where he can get down the middle of the field and take advantages of those matchups on the safeties. So can Justin Reed, can Shamari Connor, with the combination of these Chiefs linebackers, they're covering him. How do they cover Dallas Goedert? Because Goedert might be the underrated piece to this game for this Eagles offense. Because if he gets going and he's taking over the middle of the field, then it's like, okay, well, how do you stop this team?
It is. And I think the Chiefs, too, they are really good, both offense and defense. And Spags has talked about how this is the smartest group that he has ever coached. He's going to, what have they been hiding? They've gotten 2 weeks to prepare. You look at the game, the AFC Championship game where they dial up a corner blitz at the perfect time. Allen had no idea, couldn't see it coming. And, both Andy Reid is incredible off a bye. And going back to what we first talked about, the Chiefs have won 17 straight one-score games. And kind of shift gears here over to the offensive side of the ball for the Chiefs and defense for the Eagles. One thing is that I'm going to be curious to see is what can Philly do to limit Mahomes' legs? Because when you look back in these big games, his legs have played a huge factor in them. And what receiver for the Chiefs is going to step up? I mean, you look at Tony in Super Bowl 57, had that big punt return, scored a touchdown, had a couple of big plays. Mecole Hardman had some big catches in last year's Super Bowl as well. And how will the Chiefs counter the interior pressure of the Eagles? Because Mahomes, if there is any vulnerabilities in his game, it is when he's rushed coming up the middle. And you ask any quarterback, that's where they hate it the most, is because they're not able to see or they get flushed from the pocket. And you talked about the middle of the Chiefs defense being vulnerable. I think the Eagles defenses also can be a little bit vulnerable towards a tight end, because if you looked at the NFC Championship game, Zach Ertz had 11 catches against them.
Another interesting matchup because, Vic Fangio being the Eagles defensive coordinator who was just there this year, he was the head coach in Denver for 3 seasons.
Yes.
Was it 19, 20, 21?
Yep.
And the Chiefs and Broncos, of course, played 6 times during that span. And then last year, when Vic Fangio was the defensive coordinator in Miami, the Chiefs played in the regular season game in Germany in the playoffs. Over that time, the Chiefs have had some success moving the ball against a Fangio defense. But what Vic's defenses do so well is they don't let you score touchdowns. But we've seen that so far this year in the playoffs. The Rams, they had success. They moved the ball against the Eagles. They had those two second half turnovers that changed the game. And then the Commanders moved the ball again 2 weeks ago. They just had penalties and fumbles, and they kicked some field goals. So can the Chiefs get over that hump they have of not scoring touchdowns in the red zone? Because I think they'll be able to move the ball against Philadelphia. It's just when they get inside the 20, that's when this Eagles defense is really going to clamp down and make it hard on you. But Dylan, to answer your question about what's the Chiefs going to do to get by with this Eagles interior rush, I think you have to do what the Rams did in the second half. I think you got to come out with a little no huddle. I think you got to come out and you got to go fast. Maybe let Patrick be point guard, because don't let this Eagles defense rotate bodies and have different line changes. I'll say, if you get a couple first downs and Jordan Davis is on the field and Jalen Carter they're on the field and their hands are on their hips, get going, go fast. Let Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith on the inside. Let them do their thing, and then with Joe Tooney probably playing left tackle and Caliendo on the inside and Juwan Taylor on the outside, if these pass rushers are a little tired, their get-off's not going to be as much. They're not going to have that extra juice to get to Patrick. So then at the tackle spot where the Chiefs have struggled this year, they're not going up against Philly's A-team and these fresh bodies. So I think you got to look at them and maybe picking the pace up a little bit. They get a first down. Hey, guess what? We're going. We're not letting Philadelphia change. If they're in that sub package because it was 3rd and 6, go fast and then run the ball on them because they're light in the box.
And that also goes back to what I said earlier about how defenses get worn out in this game. So that's going to be something here. So I guess, I think, I don't know, is there anything else you want to add for this game?
The one thing I
we
wonder
do predictions
is this, Dylan, is how in the Super Bowl's career you've seen however many times you've had a coaching rematch. The team who won the first game, that head coach has also won the second game. Like you brought up earlier with Tom Brady saying, hey, you know what? There's 2 weeks in between this game. How does just that loss from 2 years ago, does it affect Philadelphia? Is Philadelphia still thinking about that game? Are they looking out for revenge? Or is Philadelphia going to be mature and realize that, you know what? This is a new team. We have a lot of players on this team who weren't on that team 2 years ago. And for the players who were on that team 2 years ago, that game doesn't matter. What happened in Arizona in 2023? Get over it. This is a new team. This is a new year. Can the Eagles maybe get over that hump? Or do they maybe come out a little emotional, a little pissed off, too much trying for revenge? And this trend continues where the team who wins the first Super Bowl matchup wins the second one again.
Yep. And let's get to predictions here. I'll go first, Grant. This is your team, so I'll let you get the honors of doing a headgear alert if you do want to do anything crazy here. But in these big games, especially these evenly matched games, I think you have to go to the coordinators of this. I think Andy Reid calling plays on offense, Vic Fangio calling plays for the Eagles on defense. I think that's, like I said, that's a toss-up. Those are two elite coaches, elite play callers on both sides of the ball. I think that's a toss-up. But you also I go to quarterback and Chiefs defense, Eagles offense. Kellen Moore sounds like he's going to be staying in New Orleans. Sounds like it is pretty much all but locked up that he's going to be the Saints head coach. Nick Sirianni dealt with that a couple of years ago. Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon both left to be head coaches. Has that affected any of their time to cut into, which is we could probably do a whole podcast about fixing the scheduling and coaching hiring cycle to kind of balance things out and keep everything at a competitive advantage for these playoff teams. But Kellen Moore, he can be a little bit panicky in his play calling. Steve Spagnuolo is not. He's been a steady Eddie. He trusts his guys, and they have always found ways to make plays. Their situational pass rush always comes up big. I think that is a decided matchup. Is that Spags? I'm going to take Spags. There's not many off times I will choose an offense over a Steve Spagnuolo coach defense. So I give that advantage to the Chiefs. And the other big decided advantage is the quarterback. Now, Jalen Hurts has had a tremendous career. He is a leader. And like we said with Nick Sirianni, hard to argue or dispute or dump on somebody that's made 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. But there are times where Jalen Hurts gets a little bit happy feet and doesn't always throw the ball with confidence to where he can throw guys open. And he's gotten better, but he's still, especially in critical moments where if his first read isn't there, he likes to take off and run. I think they have a defense, especially an interior defense, where Hurts is gonna struggle to run the ball here outside of the tush push. And I got to give the edge to Pat Mahomes. And I think we have for the first time a three-peat Super Bowl champion. I have the Chiefs 34, Eagles 29.
Yeah, so Dylan, this is an interesting game because where is this Super Bowl located?
New Orleans.
It's in New Orleans. Andy Reid's first Super Bowl as an assistant coach was in New Orleans as a member of the Green Bay Packers.
It was.
Who's calling the game? Tom Brady. Tom Brady's first Super Bowl was won in New Orleans. The Chiefs have an opportunity to do something that has never been done in the NFL in New Orleans and win a three-peat. Where would that be, Dylan?
New Orleans.
In New Orleans. This is a perfect storm culminating to a team in the Kansas City Chiefs who situationally makes the right plays at the right time. And they always know what to do. And I think this is going to continue on Sunday. Is Saquon going to have over 100 yards? I think he very well might. But like I said before, I think this Chiefs defense is going to do a good job of keeping him in front of you. Will he have maybe a couple 10 to 15-yard runs? Yes. But Steve Spagnuolo and his staff, they're going to do a nice job coming up with a new wrinkle that is going to cause the Eagles to not to get those big chunk plays. And in return, they're going to make a mistake. Another member on this Chiefs staff who I think is going to be the difference is Brendan Daly. People are like, who the hell is that? Well, he's a 6-time winning Super Bowl assistant coach in this league. He worked for the Patriots. He won in 14, 16, and 18 with them, and these 3 with the Chiefs. I think his time in New England and how familiar he is with all those Steve Spagnuolo's defense, as he's a Chiefs linebackers coach, is they're going to be able to come up with a couple adjustments that slows this Eagles run game down, and is just that difference where you slow Saquon down and you make Jalen beat you. Jalen's not, in my eyes, he's not the same player he was 2 years ago in Super Bowl 57. And then also, at the end of the day, the Chiefs have the ultimate trump card, being Patrick Mahomes. He's calm, cool, collected, and when he needs to make a play in these big time moments, he does. And I think also, Dylan, like you mentioned, the coaching staff advantage that Kansas City has, where they're not going to panic. They've been here, they've done that. They know what to call when they need to make a play. It's going to culminate to all these things in the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl again in New Orleans. I think it's going to be a close, contested game, but I got Chiefs 31, Eagles 25.
Okay, well, Grant has a 6-point game. I got a 5-point game. So that means the Eagles probably win by 10?
Maybe.
But that wraps up the Super Bowl. It'll be on.
But I was going to say, we've been right so far. Well, minus the Detroit-Washington game.
Detroit, we were wrong with that one.
We were wrong on that one. But besides that, we've been fairly good.
And then the the Chargers Texans game. That one we were not right on
Yeah,
at
that one
all.
we were not right on that one either. No, we were not.
So I believe Bucks Commanders. I think that one
Oh yeah,
too.
yeah, okay, yeah, we were wrong on that one.
But other than that, we've picked them all correctly. So, if you want, follow us. We'll get most of them right here. But before we wrap up the show, we got curveball of the week. I got it this week here, and I got to thinking here now, Grant. What is something that you don't pay attention to in your life, but you probably should pay closer attention to?
Oh, that's a good one. What's something I don't pay attention to, but I probably should pay more attention to in my life? It's something I don't think about, but I bought this car that I have, Dylan, in 2019. Well, it's 2025, and I bought this thing used, and I want to say it was a 2015 or a 2016. So my current car is a little older. In the next coming years, this isn't my daily life now, I'm going to have to get a new vehicle. How expensive is this going to be? Because like when I first got this last car, my car payment was like $330 a month. That's not going to be the case. So I'm thinking about it the next time whenever I have to get a car, and like just the bills that the loan that's going to be is going to be quite scary. So maybe that. I guess also just maybe. Sorry, I'll back this up. Taking advantage or not thinking about how expensive it is to live in today's world. Like I have a good rent payment and my car payment that I don't have. But when I have to eventually start doing that stuff again, how much it's going to change my daily life, like with bills and other stuff I have, because I'll be spending a lot more on either a car payment or who knows if I can buy my own house someday.
Yeah, that I'm glad you brought that up because that is something, Grant, that I couldn't tell you what the majority of what my bills cost. Like I don't know. This is how this was brought up. Was my mom called Saturday or Sunday, and she got this email from our electric company about how to sign up for online payments and how it's like there's some scam going around or something. And I was like, she's like, well, I'm like, well, I have mine set up for auto pay. And she's like, oh, well, what was your bill last month? I was like, I don't know. Like, I couldn't tell you my electric. I couldn't tell you what my cable bill is. I don't know what I pay for vehicle insurance either. I don't know any of it. I have no idea of what I pay per month. I figure, well, if it doesn't go through, they'll call me and I'll get it squared away. But I have no idea, and I barely know what like my utilities and water bill is, and the only reason I have a somewhat of an idea of what it costs me is because it's the only thing that I don't have set up, and I either can't figure it out or it's not an option of how to set that up for auto pay either. But probably should pay more attention to what my monthly bills are and stuff. But I guess I'm also, in a sense, I'm fortunate that I have a good job, I have a good career, and I manage my money decently enough to where I don't have to worry about what I pay per month. So I guess that's a plus.
And on that, I guess also maybe one thing I should focus on more again with money is for my credit card bills and statements. I always know like how much around it should be. I'm like, okay, well, I went to this place, I spent this amount. I just bought, this off this website. It's going to be that amount. So, when I open it up, it should be right around X price. But I don't know the exact amount. And then like when I, log in on the 7th or the 6th to look at my bill and pay it, I'm like, oh, so that's the final number. And then I'm growing through and I'm like, okay, yep, yeah, went to Target there. Oh, yep, got dinner with friends there. Oh, forgot about that. It's like knowing like the specifics. I should know
Oh
that.
yeah, no,
I should know that better.
I couldn't. Like same thing with like subscriptions. Like I have like all like my alerts set up for like when I make a payment on things, and
Yeah.
like around that first of the month, it's like $2.99 whatever, and I'm like, huh. I wonder what those are. What those are for. Hopefully, I'm not paying for something stupid. I mean,
Yeah.
if somebody knew my number, they could sign up for whatever they wanted and be like, huh.
Yeah.
Which also, there was I think it was PFT commenter said that somebody hacked into his card, but he doesn't know if he wants to report it because they haven't been completely irresponsible. So he said his only message is, please keep spending my money responsibly.
That's also low key kind of a flex when someone can steal your card and you're fine with them spending money.
Because
And you
it's
don't
like
mind it.
$10 at McDonald's or something, or
Oh yeah. Oh, so it's nothing crazy. It's not like he's booked a 4-week vacation to the Maldives.
yeah.
Or
That sounds nice.
yeah, or he's in
Or
Vegas.
if you're maybe it's obviously not a Dallas Cowboy because they aren't going to Can. He hasn't gotten a charge for a trip to Cancun.
Trip to Cancun yet? No.
But I heard something today that kind of hurt the soul is that the Cowboys are actually nicknamed the Cancun Cowboys.
Ooh.
Uh-huh.
And also, this is just wild, Dylan, not to open up a wound for you as a Dallas fan, but they now have the longest streak in the NFC without trips to a title game.
Yeah, because it was the Commanders, but
Commanders.
nobody ever talked about them. Which also is really funny is like Brian Schottenheimer is like the favorite person in Dallas right now. He went from like, what are we doing with this guy to that took all the pressure off Brian Schottenheimer. Now the Mavericks front office is public enemy number one down in Big D.
And we're just wait till May when the Stars lose in the semifinals or conference finals because it's what they do. Hockey's not going to get the publicity nationally like these other two sports are, especially in that city. But for people down there, they get frustrated when the Stars always lose in the semifinals to Vegas. It's what they do.
It's what they do.
It's what they do.
And what we do is we record an episode usually every Tuesday. Might be a change up next week, potentially. Maybe do it Monday next week, if not Tuesday, where we get a more instant reaction from the Super Bowl here. But check us out. Make sure you like, rate, subscribe so you don't miss when we go live next week or in the coming weeks going forward. We're working on some things. Once March Madness ends, there's running some ideas through the fire here of something to do. Some topics or some type of list. Did a book club a couple of years ago. I don't know. Did we do anything last year? I don't think we did really anything overly special like we did like the book club a couple of years ago.
Was the book club last year or was that 2 years ago?
2 years ago. Yep.
Okay.
So stay tuned.
I don't think so.
Hopefully get some guests lined up and then we got Super Bowl recap next week and kind of a little bit of a downtime. Maybe work on getting some guests lined up here before March Madness starts. And that's going to keep us occupied for another month. And then who knows what's going to happen. So make sure you stay tuned on there. Like, rate, subscribe, 3GTV Podcast. And thank you guys for listening. We'll talk to you next week.